All right. Up next, I'm going to talk a little bit about electoralism. Biden and Trump. It's 2023. The primaries, I think, are 9 months away. So we got to touch on this stupid shit. I mean, just once again, flabbergasted that we have to deal with these 70, 80-year-old asshole dumbasses that most Americans don't like running for president once again. It's like we're caught in this fucking Groundhog's Day doom loop where these motherfuckers never die, apparently, and they always come back to continue to hold and sit and squat on power in this country. From Dianne Feinstein to Donald Trump to Biden to Mitch McConnell and Pelosi and all of these freaks, they're still haunting our present. They are not letting go of the mechanisms of power. They are preventing the very necessary changes and shifts that need to happen. And the two political parties are coalesced around maintaining the status quo. So I saw something recently that I think 70% of Americans do not want Biden to run for president, and 60% do not want Trump to run for president again. So these are big majorities of Americans in a very divided country, mind you, big majorities that say fuck off to both of you. We don't want this. We don't want either one of you. And the other issue, and this is another poll that comes out, for the first, I believe it's the first time in modern American history, at least with the modern political parties as they are, 50% of Americans now identify as independent, leaving about 25% that identify as Republican, 25% that identify as Democrat. Now, what the Democrats try to make of that is that these are centrists. Corporate Democrats and maybe center-right Republican liberal types on the Republican side, they want you to believe that this huge chunk of Americans that refuse to align with either party refuse to do so because there's a too far right-wing party and then there's a way too far left-wing party, and they just want a nice centrist party, right? It's like Andrew Yang's little forward party or whatever. Neither right nor left. We're forward. We're going forward. You'll hear this on MSNBC a lot. These fucking people that are paid to be political analysts that are so fucking detached from everyday lives of normal working Americans that they really convince themselves that what the average American is pining for is radical centrism, corporate centrism. It's disgusting. It is not that. People are identified as independent because they see both of these political parties as operating and serving the interests of the rich and the elite. They feel that these parties are utterly detached from their own lives, their own issues, are unable to solve any of the problems in American society, keep shoving these pieces of shit in our face and tell us to vote. Hey, you live in a democracy. Here's Biden and Trump again. You're the freest people on earth. You can choose between Biden and you can choose between Trump. That's called freedom. And people are fucking sick of it. They want something new. They want these political parties to actually reflect the sentiments of huge swaths of the American population. They want more parties. Polls again and again show that people just want more options, that we're being forced into these two shitty fucking political parties and their grotesque, shitty fucking politicians that these parties vomit up and shove in our face as our only options. The Democratic Party, for example, after years and years of pretending to be the party of democracy, the Republicans are doing January 6th and they're attacking democracy. That's always been the case with the American right. They hate democracy. Of course they do. But the Democrats don't want it. What did the Democrats do when Bernie won the first 2 or 3 primaries? They got Obama to make sure all the centrists jumped out of the race and got behind Biden, and that Elizabeth Warren stayed in so she could siphon off votes and continue to call Bernie a sexist. And they fucking forced Biden's corpse through the finish line. Because even tepid social democracy that Bernie represented was such a threat to the corporate ruling class and the donor classes of both parties, it could not be accepted. Even Bernie was too much of a radical for these people, right? So this is the party of democracy. We love democracy. The Republicans hate it. We love it. We're all about supporting it. That's why we support the CIA and the FBI. And that's also why we are just not talking about the fact that Marianne Williamson is a candidate. She's actually going viral on TikTok. I think that's 14% in the polls, which is way higher than a lot of the other people that they do mention. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whatever the fuck. I knew him as like this anti-vaccine guy for many, many years. But, he has some like views about America's empire needing to end so we can have health care and stuff like that. But they're going to both be framed as kooks by the Democratic Party. And instead of allowing the Democratic constituencies to vote in an open primary about who they actually want to represent them, given that polls show a majority of Democrats don't even want Biden to run again. They're begging the Democrats to please give us something else than this shit. That's what we want. And we're the party of democracy, so why can't we all have a vote on who the fuck runs against Trump as the Democratic nominee for president? No, that's not on the board. No, it's going to be Biden. Shut the fuck up. We're not even going to have debates. They said that. We're not having debates. You're not going to see Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr. on the stage with Biden getting to actually clash ideas and make their arguments and let the Democratic voters decide on which person they want to represent them and their party against Trump and the Republicans. No, the party of democracy says fuck that. You're getting 80 fucking 6-year-old Biden, which I think he'll be 86 by the time his second term begins or ends or something, but the oldest president in American history. He's already the oldest president in American history. He doesn't come out. He has the least amount of conferences and public sort of, speeches or whatever than any president in history because he can't form a fucking coherent sentence. And so instead of trying to jack him up on Adderall and put him out there again and again, they're just going to keep him sequestered behind the scenes so people don't realize it, but we do because we're not fucking stupid. So I mean, this is the charade. This is the bullshit. We're the party of democracy, but when it comes to deciding who's going to represent the party, no democracy at all. And we're going to use our media outlets at the New York Times and MSNBC and the Washington Post to either outright ignore as much as we can these other candidates or to malign them, to slander them. And listen, I'm no huge fan of Marianne Williams. I've had her on a Patreon episode once to talk with her. I think she's a well-meaning person, but, my politics are well to the left of hers. But she's going viral on TikTok, a youth social media medium, for a reason, and it's because she's talking about these endless wars. She's talking about capitalism as being a problem. She's talking about how the working class has been absolutely decimated. She's talking about the corruption in the two major political parties. She's not even as good as Bernie, I don't think, although Bernie was weak in so many ways. Like, Bernie really could have done something amazing in the wake of Biden stealing that shit from him, but he just sat down and became a good little puppet for the Democratic Party, wanted to play along to get along. So he kind of revealed himself to be spineless in the real moment that counted. You can go against the capitalist class and the billionaires and the Republicans all day long, but when it comes to talking shit about Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, Bernie just didn't have it in him. Marianne Williamson says some stuff that makes me roll my eyes, and I do not believe that she is the solution. But I do believe, and this is my electoral stance going forward, destroy both parties. Destroy them, upend them, throw the people who run those parties currently out, shake them up, make them feel insecure, fire them if you get a chance to, disrupt these two major parties. Trump does that to an extent. Trump, like for example, Trump comes out hard in favor of Social Security and Medicare and then tries to label DeSantis and other Republicans as these economic libertarians. So basically, he's on the political right, taking the fight to these people who for our entire lives were the center of the Republican Party, corporate fucking psychopaths that want to take away the two remaining pillars that ensure that our streets are not filled with homeless 70-year-olds, Social Security and Medicare. And he wants to defend them because he knows they're fucking unpopular. He doesn't give a fuck about what, big corporations or the parties really think. So there's a way in which he's disrupting that. And I actually do get a little jolt of joy when I see Trump just slamming DeSantis on this shit, specifically Social Security and Medicare, making it an issue in the Republican Party that's so toxic to even pretend that you're going to even thinking about being against Social Security and Medicare. I like that. It's fine. It's for what it is. But we know how Trump actually governs. He's going to be an absolute asshole, a blowhorn for reaction. He's going to embolden the worst fucking elements of our society. He's going to continue to demonize marginalized people, immigrants, the poor, LGBTQ people. He's going to continue to do all that shit. So he's a piece of fucking garbage, and I hope he dies. But, it's funny to see them fight it out and to see Republicans and the corporate donor class of the Republicans try to take the DeSantis side. Like, he's Trump without the Trumpiness. And just seeing them get fucking humiliated by the base. That's a visceral sort of schadenfreude joy that I get out of that. But on the Democratic side, I mean, something needs to have a battering ram come into the Democratic Party. Have them just topple these motherfuckers, create chaos, shatter the glass and let it fly in a million directions. Like, it's not, for me, electoralism is no longer about, like, which candidate do I prefer? Well, he says he's going to do this, and this candidate says he's going to do this. I want fucking chaos in the parties. Not in the country. I don't want people to suffer. I want these parties to be fucking destroyed. I want this old guard and this donor class to be uprooted and fucked up and humiliated and exposed. And I'm not saying that Marianne Williamson is going to fully do that or that Bobby Kennedy is going to fully do that or anything, but I feel like if they're able once again to shove Biden down our fucking throats, that continues to solidify the status quo. That is going to continue to solidify these unearned positions of incredible power that these corporate proxy elites have in the Democratic Party, this strangled hold that it has on the party. I just want to see both parties destroyed or revolutionized or, just scattered to the wind and let something new come. There's been periods of American life where, because of the realignment in the population and constituencies, that old parties have died. Parties had to either completely flip constituencies, forge brand new constituencies, create whole new parties to overthrow previous parties. This does happen in American history. And I think there has to be a sort of clearing of the field if we're going to make any sort of gains. And I don't think a communist revolution is around the corner. And the Lenin quote about decades happening and all that's true, but we don't have the groundwork for the groundwork. We don't have any of the organizational capacities or the mass base of support necessary to be able to wage successfully and then defend any sort of socialist revolution. So in the meantime, I would fucking be happy with a militant workers' party. So many Americans engage with politics solely through the electoral realm because that's how we're conditioned, that I feel like one of the necessary steps in the direction of being able to have a robust socialist movement with actual capacity to wield power in this country is probably going to have to come through an electoral framework, meaning a new party arises, maybe the Democratic Party is destroyed and it be taken over by unions, right? I don't know. A third party emerges. I would love to have not even like a hardcore communist. I would love that. That's ideal. I'm just trying to temper my expectations a little bit. I would be happy with just a working class party, in touch with the unions, and the whole thing is we're like, the culture war, we'll fight it when we have to, but our shit is about class war. Our shit is about getting more for the working class, about toppling over the elites, about challenging the elites from an unapologetic working class, position and lens. That would be a wonderful step forward for the socialist movement and for the working class in this country, and I would absolutely love to see that. But the prerequisite for even that is the destruction of the Democratic and Republican parties as they now exist, particularly the Democratic Party. We know what the Republicans are. They're going to continue to be that. They're going to be the party of psychopathic profiteers and cutthroat capitalists and bigots and reactionaries, and that's going to be them. But I want to see the Democratic Party destroyed. And however it's weakened, however it's thrown into chaos, is a positive in my eyes. And it doesn't guarantee the emergence of a real Labor Party or a real working class party, but I feel like it is a prerequisite at this point. And so that's kind of where we are with that. That's my view on that. But again, these huge shifts, there's this lag between what the people want and what the system is offering. And that gap grows by the day. And I don't want to put, all my hope in these generational ideas, like the young people are going to make everything all right. But of course, millennials and Gen Z and the next one, I think it's Generation Alpha, whatever the fuck comes next, we are in social and economic conditions that make us much more susceptible to throwing out the neoliberal ideology altogether, to, embracing things like socialism or communism, even if a lot of people don't know what that means. Right? Most millennials and Gen Z now say that they're favorable to socialism and unfavorable to capitalism. That's not because we've convinced them all that it's the right thing to do. It's because it's a natural reaction to their economic conditions. There is no hope. We get paid like shit. We're straddled with debt. I can't even go to college without ruining my financial life. I have no real opportunity to move up. It's hard enough just to get a union that will go to bat for me when my fucking employer shits on me. There's no chance of buying a fucking house. The environmental chaos is going to impact me more than these fucking boomers in office. So of course, these conditions are what generate this left-wing sentiment among the youth. So that's growing and growing and growing. The meantime, the powers that be and those who have their hands on power, their old wrinkly hands on power, are squeezing those levers of power as hard as they can, and especially in the Democratic Party with the old, people that are there, and the Republican Party is just straight up ready to enforce minoritarian rule through whatever anti-democratic mechanisms they can reach for, especially the courts. That's why they focused on the courts. They know they're unpopular. They can't win a popular vote. They have not won a popular vote this century. The Republicans, if we did not have the Electoral College, we would never have had Bush, and we would never have had Trump. And we would have had these shitty corporate Democrats for sure, but we wouldn't even have had them. So they know they're unpopular. They know they're only going to become more and more and more unpopular. Something has to give. They don't want to change. They're going to try to undermine democracy in whatever ways they can. And the courts are one of those mechanisms that they've exploited to try and do that. So the Republicans are focused on minoritarian rule, how to, hamstring democracy so they can continue to impose their incredibly unlikable politicians and policies on the rest of us dictatorially, basically. And that's going to be a continued thing we see over the next 10, 20 years, is how that plays out. How much are they going to be able to do that, and how much are they going to be met with resistance? On the Democratic side, it's just about overhauling the party, throwing these motherfuckers out. The neoliberal era is over. All of these scumbags who offer nothing, they contribute nothing, whether they're talking heads on MSNBC, political analysis, quote unquote, on CNN, all connected to the Democratic Party, or these power brokers within the party. They all need to go. They all need to be exposed. And if it takes Marianne Williamson and Bobby Kennedy to get up on that stage and say, look how corrupt they are, look what they're doing, this is how money actually works within the party, shit that Bernie should have done, I would see it as a good thing, an advancement. And Bernie did it to a small extent, but when push came to shove, his loyalty to his friends in the Democratic Party won out over his willingness to take these motherfuckers to task. Anything that throws a wrench in those gears, I think, is positive. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about electorally going forward, because we know the spectacle of electoralism is here, will be with us for the next year and a fucking half. And things are going to jostle, things are going to move, but this is the spectacle that just soaks people in. This is politics to the vast majority of Americans. And they'll pick their side, and they'll stake their claim, and they'll go hard as fuck at each other. And the media outlets will garner huge amounts of profit, and the donor classes will dictate who actually gets to run, and then the parties will shove those people down our fucking throats, regardless of what we want. Again, most Americans don't like the two parties. Most large, consistent majorities don't want Biden or Trump, and it just doesn't matter. It's not gonna mean shit, because what the average American wants doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. It's the corporate class, the capitalist class, and in the two parties, the donor classes who get what they want. And that's going to continue to be the case, unfortunately.